Even ladies and gents, Simon Brown here. As you're coming in to the webcast, if you're hearing me, if you're able to see my voice, if you could raise your hand in the Zoom application so that we know that we're winning. You should be seeing me and my screen, not just me. April, you win for fastest finger first. Brilliant. Folks are coming in. Quick bit of housekeeping. I'm not here next week because it's the South African listed Tracker Awards happening Wednesday evening, and I've got a speaking spot, but Njabulo will be here nonetheless. So let's head to my trades. Remember my Standard Bank trade that ran from the 4th of November? Well, it died today, which is what? That's 5 months. Yep, almost 4.5 months that it went for. It got stopped out. It was in profit when it got stopped. That is the Standard Bank chart, but my stop had been moved up into a profit situation. So I took a couple of R100 profit. There's about, well, just under 4,950 Rand in that account. I will move that cash across into my USD account. I was just waiting for the local equity to stop working. That has now happened. So we're in business, and that, so not stop working, but to stop out and be into cash. So I'll move that across. A couple of trades I'm in at the moment, varying degrees. The FTSE has triggered me a buy. And actually, I missed it initially. And I don't know. I had the wrong moving averages, but I got in at the price I should have. I should have just got back on that candle. Instead, I got that candle. And it's edging a little bit higher. It's had a bit of a weak day today. I was chatting with Njabulo before we started. Markets globally have been a little bit weak, and I think they're worried about the Federal Reserve. Jerome Powell speaks this evening, announcement around interest rates. I don't expect any changes in the US interest rates. In fact, that would be a monster surprise. I think it's more two statements he's made. The one which was that they will do whatever it takes, and that rates will remain where they are until 2023. And does he still commit to those statements? If he does, we're off to the races. If he doesn't, we'll see what happens there. So I'm in the FTSE 100, chugging along, doing nicely. I was short NASDAQ. I got stopped on that one. It was my short. I got short in that candle. I got stopped on that candle. We might be getting a buy come through. We'll see. I got a buy on the S&P 500, but here's the problem I ran into with it. I couldn't get into the S&P 500 because they wouldn't let me do mini lots. So I had to do a full lot. And the trick is quite simple. If I buy a full lot and I stick my stop loss at 3896, 3896, now my risk isn't so bad. Markets come down, that's why. But if at the time when I was doing it, frankly, my risk was too big. I needed to do a half or 0.6 of a lot or something, and I couldn't. So what I did was I hacked it and I went and bought the SPY. The SPY is essentially the ETF, the spider, which tracks the S&P 500. So that keeps me going. It's the ETF. It mimics it. There won't be any real drag coming through because I think my total expense ratio on that is 0.03%. So it's and it actually enabled me to take a nice proper risk adjusted. I got 5 of those, so nice and simple. And then the other one that's triggered has been Japan. Went through. Japan's tricky because it's the hours of doing it. So like the candles are weird as to not so much when they're closing, but when I'm noting. So it's trading until normal time would probably, I think it trades until about 4 o'clock or so, our time zones. But I have got a trigger on the Nikkei 225. That was the trigger candle. There was my entry, which was yesterday. And there is then today's trading as well. S&P and 225, both slightly underwater. FTSE slightly above water. Net, I am down $10, $9.60 in the overall process. Some of the others I'm looking at, as I said, there's NASDAQ. If anything, I'm waiting for those moving averages to cross. Let's see. I think market, as I said, is waiting for Jerome Powell. Top 40. Yeah. It's been a tough March. We are actually down for the month of March after having had a really epic start to the year. We'll see. Again, watching those two moving averages, the 7 and 21, watching for them to switch And as soon as they do, we'll know what to do with it. Eurostoxx 50, I got stopped on it and then it went off to the races again. So we're waiting. ASX, I'm not trading because it won't let me trade out of hours, and I'm not an Australian and their hours are completely crazy. So at this point, I have parked it. China, so I should be short of this. But again, there was an issue with my ability to do proper risk management. But now I see they have introduced. And what's happened is the S&P, for example, you could do mini lots and then it changed. And now I can do the minis on China as well. Because again, I want to risk $40 per position. This is ultimately a $2,000 account when I've moved all the cash into it. And I want to then risk the $40 per each. The others I'm not doing. The Nifty 50, as much as I love it, again, my risk is just too insane. So there's a short approaching here. But if I take this short and my stop, even at this point with my stop at 14,988, in this particular case, my risk is $235. Yeah, and I can't trade a fraction on it. So I need to go and find the ETF. I did find one, but it was a deeply inefficient ETF. So I need to go and find a better one. And it wasn't listed here. And then the 2000, again, this is that week period there when I should have been trading and I just missed because I had my wrong moving averages, which is completely and absolutely a lame excuse. And I've now got a marker here which says, remember, because I had others lurking and they were giving me different pictures, and I need to make sure that I'm focusing on my 7 and 21. I should actually just delete that 50 and the 200. But at this point, 3 positions in the market, all of them long positions. Either Jerome Powell talks nice to the market and we're off to the races, or Jerome Powell talks nasty to the market, in which case we'll get some stops coming through. We'll see how they play. But I'm not going to overly stress that. We'll let him decide. Question someone was asking, as always, around gold. Gold is sort of consolidating at the moment around the 1730 level, but the trend in gold is down. And if there's a position here in the yellow metal, that position should be a short position. There is no upside to being long of gold at this point. There needs to be some sort of more technical break or something to it before we can get excited again about gold. So just the 3 cues coming through. April, early webinars about what you're moving your portfolio from rands to USD. Yeah, so April, so I'd been trading CFDs. Njabulo, when did we start? Back in August. Yep, so I traded CFDs in August for about the first time in a decade or so. But truthfully, I'm an index trader. I like the lower volatility. I like trading the indices. I like my 721. So what I did was I took the cash that was in my Czar account where I'd been trading local CFDs. I'd moved it across to the USD account. And then I'd left the Standard Bank trade there, which has now come through. 0 active trades there. So that last bit of money will be moved across. You're talking about, so trading the indices, the terms of the swaps, what they're essentially talking about is they have, because we're trading a geared instrument, they're essentially lending us some cash. And that swap is then effectively the cost of that loan. And now it gets more technical in terms of exactly what a swap is in terms of a proper dictionary definition of the swap is that I've swapped the return on one asset for return on another asset. And in this case, I've swapped the return. They're going to give me the return on the index in that space. But essentially, every single night, you've got a loan. I've got a position. Say that position is $1,000, but I've only put down $100 as margin. There's a $900 loan. They're going to charge me interest. And you can see that then ticking over there. Even in my Standard Bank trade, which I ran from 4 November until today, December, January, February, March. So, yep, almost 4.5 months. My total cost on the swap was, and now I can't remember, it was approaching maybe $80. So it wasn't onerous by any stretch at all. It is a cost of doing the trade. At this point, we're not paying any commission on our trades. So we score on that side, but we do pay that swap fee. Aldrich, can I trade indices on a Czar account? You absolutely can. And Njabulo is trading the top 40 index. The reason why I moved it into dollars was because those indices are trading in dollars. So if you trade it in a Czar account, every time you do a trade, you turn your Czar into dollars, and there is a cost or a spread there, and then you go and do the trade, and when you close it, and that happens automatically in the background. Think Markets just does that automatically. When you close the trade, your dollars become Czars again. So it's just that extra little bit of sort of cost/stickiness, which is why I moved it across into the dollar account. You can deposit direct into either dollar or Czar account. You can also, in the back office of the Think Markets account, transfer currency from one account to the other. So I've transferred the initial tranche of Czar from Czar to dollar, and now the second tranche will go through as well. Aldrich, April, I hope those answered your questions. If not, send them back. We will get to them if those don't make sense. But with that, Njabulo, over to you. Let's see how your trades are going. You're in ShopRite, so you're having some fun at least.
Yeah, but my fun has been reduced a little bit, especially this week, because the market has not been nice to me this week. But I did get some dividends today coming from BHP and BHP. BHP was last week. Today was Impala and Nsibande. So I got a bit of dividends there.
Cool. We're seeing your Google screen, not your Chrome browser, not your Think Markets.
Okay. It's share. There you go. If I bring back.
Yep, that's winning.
If I bring back my boxes. So this is my African Rainbow trade. I've been in it for a while. Actually, one of the trades that has given me some good profits in the past. So I re-entered on back when it was testing the support here, and it had a nice falling wedge breakout. So seems to be stuck in this, what is it? 266, 303 range for now. I'm waiting for a break on the upside. If it does, I'll add into the position and trail my stop accordingly. But so quite comfortable with my stop where it is right now. Just change that back into green. I'm fairly comfortable, but if I zoom this chart out, it's a very nice, healthy uptrend here on this chart. Loving it.
Do you always put your stop in the box below you? Is that where you're going to put your stop? Because I see it's there. It's like a little bit into the lower box. Is that the strategy?
Yes. So the thought or the strategy is that I get into the trade. I don't mind how long it stays in its current box, as long as it's not going into a lower box. And then if it goes into a higher box, I add into the position and move my stop into a.
Gotcha.
Just jog my stop behind me. What that does is, in the beginning, it keeps my risk at 2%, but then as the older trades stay in profit, that risk, even though I risk 2% of the balance on the new trade, but the ultimate risk of the entire trade reduces as the older trades are in profit. And ultimately, at some point, all of them will be, I'll be actually having a risk-free trade, as in the case, I believe, in Impala.
You'll have three, 4 trades as it moves through the boxes, and the older trades are well in the profit. The newer trades are maybe at just in or slightly out.
Yeah. And it's the case with Impala. We'll get to it in just a bit. With Aspen, so I got in the trade in that bull flag there, and I added into it as we're getting into that 150 box. I've been actually waiting for that 150 break for a while. It did break, but similarly came back to similarly test that support line there of that up channel. Still comfortable. I don't see the sellers being strong as yet. Putting my stop well out of traffic for now. So when I go into a new box, I like putting my stop maybe somewhere halfway through. Initially, it was sitting there, and then when we break in, I pulled it to where it is at the moment. But when it breaks higher, I'll trail it again. And this level around 143 is one I'm eyeing for a potential next place to put a stop. As you can see, that support line holding very, very nice and well. So the market came bitterly close to stopping me out on BHP. I believe I'm going to be stopped tomorrow. My initial stop loss was a little bit higher, would have been stopped already, except I moved it out away for factoring for the dividend. As you can see, this risk seems a little bit higher, but it's offset by the dividend payment that I've received from BHP. It was quite chunky. I believe it is around 15 Rand per share.
About 15 bucks. Yeah. And we were talking about this beforehand, because what happens is, I mean, you always move stops up, but there's an exception, because it happened with Nsibande as well today. Pays the dividend, it falls by that dividend amount. So LDT was yesterday, falls by the dividend amount, and you need to adjust your stop loss accordingly. Sometimes you don't, because it's so far away. But if the stop is closest, you actually need to move that stop loss down by more or less that dividend amount. Otherwise, you get stopped in a dividend on an X date, and that's just the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. I actually wanted to pull it to much closer to break even on that initial trade, but that felt far too far. And then Capitec is just not playing ball. It did look like it was starting to get exciting, but it just came back into that flag. But I'm waiting for that breakthrough, that 1400 and 1450 level. Then I'll probably add into the position depending on the amount of risk I have on the trade. Actually, Capitec was an error trade in a sense of positioning size. Initially, the risk was sitting at about 5%, and then as I add more capital, that risk reduces.
Came down.
Yeah, and it came down a little bit more because of the dividends that I got today. Coronation, I think it was on Friday. Looked like this week it was going to break into a higher box, but yeah, found some crazy resistance around that 52.60 level. But the sellers aren't strong enough, seemingly so far, because we keep seeing higher lows on the stock, essentially creating an ascending triangle. So when it breaks there, that level looks like a nice place to put a stop there. Actually, Coronation is a great example. As you can see, Coronation, the stop is halfway through, even though there's there isn't much traffic, and that's because the lower cost stocks are susceptible to just one seller pushing that price down, and then seeing it come back. So I give, with the lower cost stocks, I give it a little bit more room before I just ratchet the stop up.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I think ordinarily I would have put my stop just below those lows there, around that 48 Rand. But I don't want to be stopped on a good trade just because there's a seller that wants to go on a weekend away. Distel is one of my favorite and most luckiest trade ever because I entered back in August.
You got some of this in, was it August, September? It was way back.
Yeah,
70 bucks or something.
September, on the 8th of September, I believe, or 3rd of September. There, and I think my initial risk on this trade was 16 Rand. So now about 7 times that risk in profit already secured. I've recently added into the position because let me remove 50 day and 200 day and jump back to my weekly chart, because these two has finally crossed already. The 60-week exponential moving average, and
yes,
yeah, there was a big temptation on adding into the position, but the desire to be disciplined to my plan was more important than adding to the position. But I could have added into this position, maybe even risk maybe 0.5% or 1% on the trade just to pyramid on my way up. But I'm fairly comfortable with how it panned out, and waiting for, I think, as opposed to that level there, if it breaks again around that 121, I'll add into the position because that seems to be a nice resistance level because we bounced there about 3 times already. If we
Yeah,
bounce three
yeah.
times, I'm convinced it's a resistance level. And if we break that level, I'll add into the position and put my stop somewhere below those lows there. Xaro looking good. It did break, and we have had that 3% break higher. And the reason, normally when I'm already in a trade, I don't wait for the 3% break. I just add as we break into a new box. But here, that that said to me, just wait for that 3% break, and then we can add into the position. I did get it, but it seems it was still a false break, but it was still making higher lows, so that's fairly comfortable. But when we properly trade into this box, I'll trail my stop to be below those lows there. But for now, it's still fine where it is because we haven't properly moved into that higher box. Next is Foshini. Similarly with Distel, I entered it very, very early on. I think it was 24th of August last year on a bullish divergence. Seemed to
Mm-hmm.
be one stellar of a trade. Um, yeah, I've been ratcheting up my stop. Similarly, I think I'm sitting at about 4 or 5 times my risk, my initial risk on the trade, and my stop was well below those lows there. So it gets me thinking that perhaps when we start to get in a bear market, I should look for those reversal signals and maybe trade them instead of 2%, maybe 0.5%, until those two moving averages have crossed, and then I can ratchet my risk back to 2% per trade. But that's something that I'm still thinking about. Yeah, I'm still enjoying a bull market for now. Glencore still looking good, coming back to test that 58 Rand. What was resistance, now it's support, hasn't broken it yet, and there's a little bit of a gap there. Perhaps that's where I should be pushing my stop towards, but I don't like, pulling my stop in my direction while the stock is moving against me. But once we break higher, I'll, ratchet my stop and probably add about that 64 Rand level there. Impala has been stellar. Entered on that break there, added again on that break there, and again on the break, and again there. So with Impala, essentially this is a risk-free trade. Not only have I gotten dividends from the trade, the the profit secured from the initial trade has covered the risk that I've taken on the latest trades. So that's like a proper risk-free trade. And the worst thing that could happen, I make, just bring back my portfolio tracker there. Oh, that looks, maybe if I refresh it. The worst that could happen, I think I make about 8% on the trade. Yeah, was in Bala. I don't know why it's showing like this, but the worst that could happen is that I make only 325 Rand on the trade. That's the worst that could happen, but the potential to the upside, and that's a great thing about trend following. Once that stop is in profit, you sit on a risk-free trade.
Yeah.
Mondi looking quite good. Seems to have found some resistance around that 384 level. When we break that level, I'll add into the position, and probably again when we break into that I believe it's 392, 390, 400 bucks, and then I'll show my stop accordingly. But for now, I'm still holding. Uh, my stop loss is still quite fine below that box there, but I'll probably ratchet it to around 360 relatively soon once we start seeing a bit of turn in the market. Mr. Price was boosted by, so I entered Mr. Price on the break there, but it came back to a lower box, but without stopping me out because my stop initially was below those lows there. But it came back without stopping me out. And then on a break there, I added into the position and trailed my stop. And so looking good. So both entries are more or less the same entries, even though the earlier
Hmm.
one is costing me more in terms of swaps, but that's relatively okay. And then that since announcement about the acquisition of Yapishev, the market really liked that that since
Yeah.
announcement, and yeah, nice bullish engulfing candle as we break there. Another one that's been toying with me a little bit was multi-choice. So entered on that break, that bullish flag was there. That's where that break happened. Entered, but yeah, seems to found a even higher resistance level there. It's just been toying with me. I thought that break there with that bullish engulfing candle was going to be stronger, but not to be so. But I'm waiting for that 140 break, then I'll add into this position. Multi's choice has been stuck in this range for quite some time now. And I'm pretty sure that if it does break on either side, it's going to be quite an aggressive move. Next is Northern. Northern looking good, but that doji there worries me a little bit. But
Oh, yeah,
not,
yeah.
yeah, not too much though,
It
because
is what it is.
yeah. And similarly, the profit secured from this trade, I think I'm just under break even if I get stopped on this trade. So as we entered into this box, actually this box now is supposed to be red because I actually don't want it to trade. So I color code in these boxes. Green means don't take position in this box, and I mean rather red, don't take position in this box, and green means you're free to do that. But if we take out that high of the doji, I'll add into the position and ratchet my stop just below that traffic there. Pepco's looking great. Entered on that. I actually missed it on that first break, but I felt that the risk was still sufficiently close on the trade. So I took the trade there. Still looking quite lekker on Pepco, and the switch to, if I jump back into my weekly chart, it just crossed. Actually, when I took the trade, yeah, they just actually they're equal, and the stock market just yeah, they like
Oh,
bet
wow.
on the
They're
buck
back on
equal.
equal.
Yeah.
That's quite wild.
Quilter, I, that break there of that bull flag got me excited, but because that candle was quite huge. But it seems to be a little bit of selling off since on Quilter. So just, holding relatively comfortable, waiting for that break higher. Another one I'm liking quite a lot is Royal Bafokeng. And once it starts to properly trade into this 113, 130 box, I'll pull my stop to just below those lows, that traffic there around 104. And I think I'll be sitting well in profit in that regard once that stop is there. But for now, still fine out of traffic. In fact, I can just pull it there. That's where it's supposed to be. I'll pull all of them just straight
Mhm.
after this call. So Rand Merchant entered on that break there. It looked quite convincing of a nice bull flag, and I pulled my purposefully put my stop on the lower box instead of below those lows there, just to reduce the my position size on the trade. so that when we actually break above that 30 level, I'll then properly size up this position. It was more of like a testing order to see if I can't get in a little bit early on that bull flag break there, but it seems to be, shorting back straight back into the bull flag, but still making high lows. So that's fairly comfortable. Sup has been acting well. Beautiful head and shoulders, cap and handle, just everything going its way. It's just acting as I doped it up to be. I entered on that break there. Seems like it's coming back to test the support. I'll probably add into the position around above that 52 rand level and put my stop around that 44 rand and some change. Yeah, that 44 rand looks good, and perhaps that 50-day exponential moving average will be above that level as well when we break that 52 rand level. And I got stopped on Citrix 40 today. I need to exit all these positions tomorrow. First thing market open tomorrow, I'll exit this position. Has been quite a stellar of a trade. I think I may probably around 16%, 15% return on that position there. That was so trading the Citrix 40 on the lazy system. Initial trigger was that was the initial
back there,
trigger.
December.
Yeah, that was the initial trigger confirmation. Second trigger confirmation, and then it gapped down in the morning. And then another trigger confirmation, and then I entered there, and another trigger there, and then I confirmation. I entered right at the close there, but yeah, I got stopped today, so I'm going to exit this position first thing market open tomorrow. And if you want alerts on this, you can subscribe on the Village Trader website. You can subscribe on the mailing list. I'll leave the link to the subscription right on the video description on YouTube, because the Village Trader website is down for now, but I'll get that fixed up over the next few days.
Cool.
ShopRite looking lekker, strong
beauty.
results coming in.
Yeah.
So first intro was on that cup and handle there. If I zoom out a little bit, yeah, that cup and handle, nice break, but it came back to toy with my emotions, but didn't touch my stop because my stop was well out of traffic below those lows there. And re-added into the position on the break after the results came yesterday, looking quite good. And I think it's one of the few stocks that haven't had a pullback along with the market today.
Nah, the results were just knocking it out yesterday and today. In fact, today was stronger than yesterday.
Yeah. And then Nsibande yesterday was ex-div, and then today the share price drops by the dividend amount. I pulled my stop away by the dividend amount, even though my stop was would not have been touched off, but I pulled my stop just a little bit. So I got a bit of dividends from Nsibande as well.
I mean, my sense with that is pull the stop, pull it down by the dividend amount, and then in a couple of days or weeks or whatever, it then sort of reassess it. But a dividend, from a pure cash flow perspective, you're in the same position, right? You had the equity, now you got equity, and the dividend, you're unchanged. But let it kind of settle, and if there's a strong trend, it'll continue trending up, and then you can move your dividend again.
Yeah.
So your stop loss again.
Yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan, at least. And then on transaction capital, similarly with Coronation, yeah, I just wanted to put my stop very, very far from traffic, because as you can see those wigs, it can just,
This is the one that nailed me. It's like One Oak sold 4,000 shares. I got stopped and it still closed green on the day.
Yeah. And look at how many sellers how many times that seller didn't move, how long it took for that seller to move away from that 26 rand level. It took quite a bit of a while. And it looks like they came back around that 27 rand. and then looks like they've moved again. But you know, either they'll run out of stocks or buyers will run out of money to buy the stocks. Either way, if it comes down, I'll get stopped. But if it moves higher, I'll add into the position. And I think that 25 Rand is a nice level to put a stop on transaction capital day. Also, Woolies looking nice, breaking
Woolies.
into a higher box. And it also only recently the moving averages crossed only just recently.
Oh,
Actually, they crossed on the day I was
wow,
entering
yeah.
the position. So yeah, looking quite good. And stock that I'm watching quite closely, it's the banking stocks. I'm watching the banks quite closely. FNB looking good. These moving averages looking bitterly close from crossing. I think probably about 20 cents from crossing, 19 cents from
Yeah.
crossing. Yeah, looking quite good. And APSA as well. Balo as well is one actually it did cross today, but I'm waiting for the close above that 101, 3% higher from that 98 Rand resistance level. Want to close above 101, I'll then take the trade. I'm liking this chart quite a bit. I'm liking this chart quite a bit. And what's APSA? APSA is looking quite lekker as well. Also just recently crossed. I think it's crossing this week. Now the 30-week exponential moving average is above the 60-week exponential moving average, which means that I can now take the position on APSA. Perhaps when the results come, I think in about a few weeks.
No, results were out.
Results were out, but were
Monday.
terrible.
Yeah.
They were nothing to
They're a
write home
bank, eh?
about.
Everything's terrible about being a bank at the moment.
Yeah, and I think them not declaring a dividend stopped
Yeah.
stopped the price from
Yeah,
moving
them
higher.
and Ned both. They said they'll pay a special div when and if, well, when things return to a level of normal, and that they'll return what they call excess capital. In other words, they'll do a special dividend. But Nedbank as well said no dividend just yet.
Yeah, also Nedbank, I'm still staying a bit far from it because it fell the hardest and it took the longest to recover. It was the leg of the group, and you know, even for the fact that it's a leg of the banking stocks, I wanted to properly cross these two to cross first before I can entertain the stock perhaps
And
above
it's
166.
Nedbank's got a lot of exposure to the property stocks, and there's concern around that. I'm not convinced how justified it is. I think the property stocks have managed. It's been a tough time, but they've managed. You know, they're surviving, and those that aren't have hit the wall. But that's certainly got the market spooked.
Yeah. And last on my watch list is actually Sasol, but I'm only liking Sasol above that 250 level. And I'm pretty sure if we break that 250, these two would have crossed, in which case I can take the position. And what I'm starting to notice, it takes on average about 3 boxes before the two moving averages can cross. And I'm fairly comfortable. And like I said, I'm considering trading a divergence once we start to be in a bear market in anticipation of back into, but I'll manage that risk through my risk management. But one thing I will not do is short stocks because I don't like that asymmetry risk of it, because the reward is only 100%, but the risk is just unlimited.
Yeah. No, I agreed. Yeah. My camera's playing up, but cool, folks. We will park that then. Njabulo, thanks for your time. As I said, next week I've got the Salter Awards, South African Listed Tracker Awards. That's what it is, Salter. So I won't be here, and Njabulo will, but then normal will resume thereafter. And we're out of results season, so I won't have all the issues with recording CEOs on Wednesdays and stuff like that. But everyone, stay safe. Have a good evening further. Pleasure to all. And Njabulo, we'll chat again. Everyone, stay safe. Cheers all.
Cheers, everyone.